Hey Epic artists, so glad to have you here with us today for the Epic at Home kits. This is a really fun thing I think for you to do at home. You can watch the video, pause it, take your time, make it really special. So today we're going to be making the owl wind chime. Some of you have probably made this before, but you can make it again, give it as a gift. It's great for parents, grandparents, teachers, friends, cute little owl. So your parent or somebody picked up a kit from Epic, and we're going to use, most of the supplies will be included, some things that you'll need from home, 2 different bowls of water. They can be smaller than this, you don't need very much, a sponge or a rag, some paper towels, and some newspaper. Clay will stick to your table, so there is a board with some paper towel or with some newspaper included, but it's also maybe good in case you want to work outside of that little square to expand the space. So you'll have a sheet of paper, we'll go over that later. You'll have a fork, paintbrush, and popsicle stick, some underglazes that we'll use at the end, and then for the owl project, you're going to have some templates to cut around. So inside this plastic, to make sure that the clay didn't dry out, is a slab of clay. So pack that very carefully. You don't want to put too many big fingerprints or dents in that, otherwise you're going to have to work them out later. And go ahead and save the bags that it came in, the bag that the clay came in, because you're going to want to use that later. Here is clay slab, and if you look closely, there's a little bit of texture in there, and that just comes from the slab roller. So I'm going to take my sponge, you can use a rag, and get almost all the water out, and just gently go across the top to make sure that it's nice and smooth. Because even though it looks small, once that owl's glazed, any texture in there is going to stand out, and it may not be the look you're going for. We're going to add back in the textures we want later. So this isn't super complicated. The main thing is just to keep even pressure and not poke it too hard. Then I'm going to put my owl, main body of my owl, and cut that out first. Now this is kind of like cookies. If you put it in the middle, then it's hard to figure out exactly how to fit the other pieces later. So I'm going to start on an end so I can get as much of the slab as possible. And I'm going to cut it out with my popsicle stick. So hold your popsicle stick up straight, and you're just going to go around the body of the owl. It's okay if it's not perfect. Just kind of want to get that general shape. You may have to stop and take a little clay off your stick. Okay, so there is the body of my owl. Take that. And then this shape is for the wings, and there's only one of these, but I actually need to cut out 2. Same with the feet. There's only one template, but we need to cut out 2. So I'm going to put this here, use my stick, cut out 1, and then because I want the smooth side up, I'm going to flip it over, do this side. Two wings. Go ahead and take those out. If you have little scraps, you can just kind of keep all your clay in a pile or a ball. that later. The wing here. And then my feet, I need 2 feet. So let's see, this guy looks like it was made for this corner. And again, you can pause this, take your time cutting it out. I'm just trying to keep moving for all you people who like to go fast. 2 owl feet. Okay. Okay. So now I have all my pieces. They're a little bit ragged on the end and it could be kind of sharp once it's fired. So I'm gonna take my sponge or your wet paper towel and rag. Again, you don't want to add too much water or the clay will get kind of goopy. And I'm just gonna smooth out those sides so that they look nice and smooth. If you find something you don't like, you can always reshape it with your fingers a little bit. Sometimes there's little extra balls of clay that need to get pulled off. This is the part where if you take your time and do it really nicely, you're gonna like your owl even more. On my feet, I'm just gonna kind of press in to get those toes better. Get my finger wet and just smooth it out with my finger. That sponge is kind of bulky for this small area. Get on the backs a little. Okay. One more owl foot. If your hands are starting to stick to the clay, just get them a little wet. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now that I have my owl cut out, I can start to think about how I want to put my owl together. I know that my wings need to be attached. And so if you look at this owl, the wings are kind of going out about halfway. Sometimes people really like their owls to be flying. Sometimes they like them to be resting. Sometimes they like to flip them like this and put their owl wings down. I actually like how that looks, so I'm going to do it this way. Now those of you who have worked with clay before know that anytime clay is joining with other clay, you have to scratch to attach. And that just means that in the kiln, if both sides are flat, they're not gripped onto each other, they'll pop off when they get fired. So we need to scratch both sides so that they'll join together. I'm just going to use my fork to draw a line, and you could use the back of your paintbrush, your wood tool. I'm going to kind of make a little line where I want to scratch. Then I'm going to take my fork and I'm going to really get down in there. You want to go one way, other way. If your clay's dried out, add a little bit of water. You really want to see that grip start, because if you don't scratch enough, then again it could pop off in the kiln. Okay, and then I need to also scratch the back of my wing. It's okay if you scratch the whole thing. You can figure it out later. If you kind of know which section it's in, that's fine too. Set that on there for now. Scratch this side. Now I'm going to press those down, make sure they stick, but then I'm also going to go back in with my popsicle stick, get it a little bit wet, and kind of join those two sections together. Make sure that there's not any gaps. You created a line, you can use your finger, go back in and smooth it out. Just like that. So now my wings are attached. My feet will get attached later with strings, so I don't have to think about those. But if you look at this owl, some of the other pieces we added were beak and then eyes. You don't have to do your beak and your eyes the same way. You could do a solid eye and then paint it black on the inside. You could do a big beak or a flat beak like a triangle. So we'll try some different kinds of, we'll try a different set of eyes just so you can see something different. And what you could do is use the slab and cut a circle out. You could even trace something like the bottom of this, or if you have something small and circular at home, or you can use your hands, make a ball, and press it down into an eye. See if I can get them to be the same size. I think this one's a little bigger. Take a little clay out. Okay. Now I need to scratch the back of these. Notice I'm just using this water right now. This other water is going to be for later when we're doing our underglazing. So that was right there. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Stick it down. Scratch this one. Go right there. So scratch that. Just kind of press them down into the shape you want them to be. Okay, another thing on this owl is there's a little spot for the eyebrows, so I'm going to draw that in. This isn't something you have to do. Looks kind of neat. And I'm going to take my finger and kind of press out an eye spot, even though I'm going to glaze that later. And then let's see, I'm going to do a beak. Let's see, I'm going to do a triangle beak, just like that. My beak almost flew away. Press it down, smooth it out. Okay. So now that you have that done, you can add in some texture. So if you look closely at this one, there's some bigger dots and some little dots and some lines on the wings. All of those were done using simple tools. So I could take my fork and make some lines on the wings, kind of look like feathers. Even have them going down. Draw a nice squiggly line there. I could do some feathers up here. And then the back of your paintbrush would work good for some dots if you want to add some dots. You can also use stuff that you have at home. like buttons. Here I have a stamp. It's a star stamp or a sun. I'm going to press that in a couple places. You can use the edge of your wood tool to make some lines. However you want it to look. Let's see, you can also do some decorations on your feet. And since it will be going both ways, it's totally fine if you want to flip it over, smooth out this side a little bit, and do some lines on this side because they will be turning and people will see both sides of your feet. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do before we get to glazing is just make a hole. If you have a straw at home, this is a great thing you can do with a straw. Otherwise, you can just use your paintbrush or anything, but we want to make sure that it's going to be big enough to stick the string through. So I need one on the top and then one on the bottom and then one in both of my feet. And you gotta make sure that this goes through, otherwise you're not gonna be able to get the string in place. So a lot of you, when you come to Epic and you make things, you make them and then you pick out your colors. We put them in the kiln to bisque them, take them out, glaze them for you, put them back in, and then call you when you're done. Well, we're going to do something different today. We're actually going to use underglazes. And underglazes are glazes that you can put on wet clay. You don't have to wait for it to be bisqued. But they work a lot like glazes, where they're not always the color shown, although mostly they are in this case. They can be layered but not mixed. And you need to put on a couple of coats to get good coverage. So in the owl pack you have blue, black, white, yellow, and then this one that looks kind of orange is actually brown. So the body of your clay, when it's done being fired, is going to be a light tan. So anything that you don't put underglaze on will be a light tan. I'm going to start with the things that I know. If you have paintbrushes at home and you want to do a different paintbrush for each color, that's totally fine. Or you can just clean them in between. So I'm going to start with black. And I'm going to do my eyes black in the middle. A little bit more glaze on there. Clean that off, and then I'm going to wipe it with my paper towel. And then I'm going to do some white. So I'm going to do some white up here. I thought about doing white around his eyes, but I think I'm gonna just leave that to be tan. Get that line. I'm gonna do his beak in the yellow color. Now, if you accidentally get some paint where you don't want it, you can, if I got some yellow there and I didn't want it there, you can actually just wipe it off with a sponge. No problem. So if you're working on your nose or your beak and it kind of gets where you don't like it to be, you just clean it off. And then I'm gonna do blue, part of his wings. I think that will look really fun. I'm just doing one coat. If I were you guys, I would probably wait for this coat to dry and then go over it once more. Just make sure that the colors really show up well. Get around the edges. I went over my line, clean that up. Do the other side. I mean, you can decorate this however you want. If you want to write "I love you, Grandma" on the owl, if you want to put hearts on it, if you want to do something for your teacher. If you want to make it a football owl and put a football in its hands, that's fine. This should totally be personalized to how you want it to be. And then I'm just going to take the brown and I'm going to just lightly go over stomach area. Here. Okay, and then you can get the feet too. I'm gonna do those blue. You can do the back side if you want, because underglaze does not stick to the kiln shelf like glaze does, so it's okay if we get a little bit on the back. Okay, so again, if I were you, I would wait for this to dry. I would put another coat of underglaze on my owl. And then, when you are done with your second coat, pack up all of your glazes. It's super, super great if you can return any unused glaze, especially if you didn't mix them, which again, it's not good to mix glazes. So put the lids back on. I'm gonna clean up my tools. Also great if you can return your tools because we can use them for another project. Just kind of wipe the clay off of those. Return your templates, and then you're gonna fill out this form. So student name, put your name in the project was the owl wind chime, your parent's name, and the date. Then your phone number, email, the way that we want you to let you know that your project's done, which usually will take about 2 weeks. You want us to email you, call you, or text you, just circle 1. And then your name or initials on your project. So on the back of your owl, you are going to, my guy's kind of wet, but you're just gonna write your initials. And that will make sure that we know that it's yours. It would also be great if you could do it on your feet, even if you make it small, so that I know whose feet go with who. Hopefully I can tell by glaze style, but you never know. So you put your initials, or you can write out your name. You can write the date if you want. Any special instructions. So let's say that your favorite color in the whole world is pink, and you want your owl to be pink, but I didn't give you pink glaze. You could write that on there, please glaze my owl pink. And I will do my best after it's bisque to put pink glaze on it instead of clear glaze. And then other fun ideas, so things that you would like to make. Maybe you like owls, but you really, really like llamas. And so you would love to do something with llamas. Write that in there, or if there's something you saw on TV or on your parents' phone that you want to do, put that down and we'll see if we can make it happen. And then when this is dry, you're going to put it back on the board. You'll put it back on here. And then you're going to cover it up with the bag. We don't want it to dry too fast. So use one bag to cover it up. You can stick these in there if you want. And your tools. Cover that up. And then in the other bag, put your clay, because we can use that clay for another project. So any unused clay we definitely want back. Put a bag over the whole thing and bring this back to Epic as soon as you can. We will put it in the kiln. I'll put a clear coat of glaze over it if you did the underglazing, and then stick it back in the kiln, and we'll let you know when it's done. Again, it usually takes about 2 weeks. So you'll pack all that back up and get it back to us, and then we'll let you know when it is finished. So I hope you love your owl project. I hope you love it when it's done, and that you had fun today making your owl wind chime. Thank you.